tagged him, titled The Silent Phone Call. Welcome back, my fearless viewers. Tonight, we explore a tale that begins with a sound we all know, a phone ringing in the dead of night. But this is no ordinary call. What would you do if the voice on the other end knew your secrets, your fears, and even your future? This is the story of the silent phone call, a mysterious and terrifying connection that refuses to be ignored. Jake was a night owl, often staying up late to unwind after a long day. On this particular night, he was alone in his apartment, mindlessly scrolling through his phone while the TV droned on in the background. It was a routine he knew well, one that brought him comfort and distraction from the day's stresses. But tonight, something was different. Tonight, his routine would be shattered by an unexpected interruption. The sudden buzz of his phone on the coffee table caught Jake's attention. He glanced at the screen and saw an unknown number staring back at him. His first instinct was to ignore it. After all, who answers calls from unknown numbers at this hour? But something about it nagged at him, a strange curiosity that made him reach for the phone instead of letting it go to voicemail. Jake answered the call, bringing the phone to his ear.
Hello,
He said, expecting to hear a telemarketer or some kind of automated message. But there was nothing. No voice, no sound at all. Just silence. He frowned, pulling the phone away to check if the call had disconnected, but the screen showed it was still connected.
hello.
He tried again, a little louder this time, but still, there was only silence. The silence on the other end of the line wasn't normal. It wasn't the empty kind of silence you hear when a call drops or when someone is waiting to speak. This silence was different, heavy, almost suffocating, as if someone was there, listening, but refusing to speak. Jake felt a chill creep down his spine. Something about this wasn't right. He could feel it in his gut. And then, just as he was about to hang up, he heard it, a faint, distorted sound, almost like breathing. It was slow at first, barely audible, but it grew louder with each passing second. The breathing was labored, as if the person on the other end was struggling, fighting for every breath. Jake's heart raced as he listened, a sense of dread washing over him. Who was this? And why weren't they saying anything?
Who is this?
Jake demanded, his voice shaky with fear. But there was no answer, just that same eerie, labored breathing, now louder and more frantic. He could feel the sweat beginning to form on his forehead, his pulse quickening with each breath he heard. It felt like the person on the other end was getting closer, as if they were right there in the room with him, breathing down his neck. Jake's eyes flicked to his apartment door, which was slightly ajar. He hadn't noticed it before, but now it was impossible to ignore. The breathing on the phone grew louder, more desperate, and a cold realization began to dawn on him. This wasn't just a prank call. This was something far more sinister. Whoever was on the other end of the line wasn't just listening. They were here. His hand trembled as he slowly lowered the phone, his eyes locked on the door. The breathing continued, echoing in the room even after he pulled the phone away from his ear. It was coming from the other side of that door, just a few feet away. Jake's mind raced, trying to figure out what to do. Should he run? Hide? Confront whoever, or whatever, was out there? He stood up slowly, his muscles tense as he inched toward the door. Each step felt like it took an eternity, the distance between him and the door growing instead of shrinking. The breathing was louder now, more ragged, as if the person was on the verge of collapse. Jake's heart pounded in his chest, every instinct screaming at him to turn back, to run, to get out while he still could. But something kept him moving forward, a morbid curiosity mingled with fear, drawing him closer to the source of the sound. And then, just as he reached the door, the breathing stopped. The sudden silence was deafening, filling the room with an overwhelming sense of impending doom. Jake's hand hovered over the doorknob, his breath caught in his throat. The silence was worse than the breathing, more menacing, more final. Whatever was on the other side was waiting for him, and he knew that opening the door would change everything. His hand shook as it rested on the doorknob, his mind screaming at him to stop. But the urge to know, to see what was waiting, was too strong. With a deep breath, he began to turn the knob, the metal cold and unyielding beneath his fingers. The door creaked open slowly, the darkness beyond it almost impenetrable. He leaned forward, peering into the black void, his heart racing. What Jake saw on the other side of that door would never be known. His eyes widened in terror, his breath catching in his throat as he stared into the darkness. The phone slipped from his hand, clattering to the floor with a loud thud. The screen went black. The final sound a single, labored breath, cut short by whatever had been waiting for him. Thank you for joining me for tonight's chilling tale. If this story left you with a sense of unease, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more terrifying stories. I'll be back tomorrow with another tale that will make you think twice before answering the phone in the dead of night. Until then, remember, some calls are better left unanswered.